We really exceeded ourselves, but we wanted to drop out a really good video. Well, we don't always have the opportunity to have a test drive of F90 M5. That's why we wanted to get to know this car as much as possible and see what it can do and why is everyone so excited when they hear about M5. Of course, we start with an engine. Once again, we have here a twin-turbocharged 4.4 8-cylinder engine of BMW, a real monster that produces 600 brake horsepower and 750 Nm of torque. This is not the latest version. There are still competition and CS. These cars are lighter. For example, CS is not such a heavy one. Some things are excluded. And it's stiffer and shows better time on track. However, the main task of the M5 was to have good acceleration, and the creators decided to make an X-Drive, i.e. it's all-wheel drive. Then they realized that X-Drive had come out the fastest M they could ever release, and this monster car fucked all the other monster cars while accelerating from a standstill to 100 km per hour in 3.2 seconds. In the case of the newly released Demon, the Dodge Demon, if you do not put drag slicks on it, if you do not put it on glued drag strips every time, it won't do anything. It can stand like a fool on the ground for an hour doing burnouts. You are probably wondering now what is going on and how it came out so cool. I will tell you. The acceleration time from 0 to 100 is 3.2 seconds, which is cool compared to the price. Especially when this car is a sedan and not a coupe or any sports car, which is light and can fly in all cases and all given options and conditions. I mentioned sports cars because the weight of this car is from 1 ton and 800 kilograms and above, i.e. it can increase to 2 tons and 200 kilograms. It depends on a collection and so on. Okay, let's move on to the point. The all-wheel drive is okay. Audi has the same and also has Mercedes E-Class which we filmed, and the front axle can also be switched off. But you will have to call shamans and do some spells, or maybe you will need some saint water or whatever. And then it will be turned off, and even in this case only to some speed. It's only for warming up your tires, or you can make a couple of donuts. Here, you can set your own settings easily and choose what you want. It has 2 buttons, M1 and M2. For example, I chose one of them when we were taking a video at the track. You can press the button and instantly this car becomes a rear-wheel drive. It means that you don't have to stop for an hour, search in a manual and read, then be afraid when it turns off, and then you have to call in the service center for help if it no longer shuts down, etc. No, here you only press the button and the car instantly becomes the rear-wheel drive. Well, the potential of this car of course doesn't end here, because if you have a turbo and there are logos of BMW and M, it means that you can easily increase brake horsepower, just in a blink of an eye. You already have a car with 800 brake horsepower and you can easily make the lives of other supercars miserable. What else can I say that is interesting? The interesting thing is that it has a ZF8 speed gearbox and the 9th one reverse. It doesn't shake in the way to give you punches, and at the same time, you can switch it very quickly. Okay, let's close the hood. We can go to the interior now and I will tell you everything there. The only problem is that this car is tinted and you will see us a little worse. But we can do nothing about it. Let's go. Come on, shoot now. Okay, let's turn the sport mode off for a second. I want to tell you something because I think this is interesting and those who are interested in M would be interested in this as well. Those are the 2 buttons that modern M's have, M1 and M2. Here are 2 functions, 2 options, one of which you can choose for drag racing. For example, a hard steering to drive on a track, suspension on Sport Plus mode, usage of maximum horses, etc. In the second one, you can choose as I change some things, and when you press it, like we are driving now, and press M2, and the car becomes the rear wheel in a second. In a blink of an eye. I mean, the traction is off. The wheel steering in comfort. The suspension system has been switched to Sport Plus, and we can rev and rev. Now check this out. Can you see this button? This is a muffler. If we now open the exhaust valve system, when we turn off the car and then start it again, it says open. That's what I was complaining about in the case of Mercedes. It turns out it's possible, right? They did it. Another big advantage for this, because I don't want to push and push this button every second. I always want to drive with a good sound. Well, we mentioned sound, which is not completely good, and I want to go through that topic once and for all and talk about it thoroughly. This BMW sacrificed everything for the performance. I mean, they made an exhaust system to be as good as possible for effective speed, which means more horsepower, more performance, and that sacrificed the sound. In my honest opinion, yes, of course, it's good and very cool, but if they have tried a little harder, killed off a little bit of horsepower, and we could hear a brutal 8-cylinder sound, it would be better. Now here we have a car that only has the sound of barbells and popcorn. We can tune the sound on another car and it could be exactly the same. We can't feel the bubbling and shaking of the 8-cylinder in this car. You can hear a sporty sound, which is okay, good. But in some moments you must know exactly when it will shoot. For example, if on the first gear from 3 to 400 RPM it has a sound bang bang, on the second gear with the same RPM it may not be the same, but can be the gear on speed 4 or 5, nobody knows. It has no sound even when I'm changing gears. I mean, it has a really weird sound when I'm changing gears. Let's choose M. Can you hear that? You know what kind of sound that is? It's like a bone is stuck in somebody's throat. Give it a shot. Now I'm in the first gear. 4,000 RPM. 4,500 RPM now. Let's get back to the sound. Even while switching, it doesn't have the sound of a hurricane. When you hit something and it's like bang, the sound of thunder. It goes really like this and switches really fast, but doesn't have a sound. A lot of you would say, fuck the sound when the car is switching good, has a ZF gearbox and is so cool, and I agree with you. But the more the car scares you, the faster it seems. You are more turned on emotionally and you can enjoy the car fully when it plays with your emotions and scares you. This car doesn't do that. It's very cool, fast, sophisticated, but I'm not afraid while driving it. I think of it as it has to be this way. I'm not afraid to bend or accelerate, and I don't have a feeling that something is going to happen. I'm driving normally with my 600 horsepower and 750 newtons, with which I could make the life of anybody at the traffic lights miserable. It is because of the carbon roof that we don't have a sunroof and the light doesn't come in, and the tinted car is too bad for us in terms of filming. The light doesn't come in, and if you open the windows, it's very noisy and it's complete chaos. So we are trying to find something in between, to drive slowly, to open the windows a little bit, and to speak loudly so you can hear my voice. I want to pay your attention to the chair. Those are flexible seats. You can hold in parts and drive a car that way. Some people like that. Or you can relax, be chill and drive in the city that way. It's soft, so we can drive in the city comfortably without getting tired. BMW tells us exactly this. Buy an M5 and you will drive comfortably in the city. But also, you will find yourself comfortable on the track as well. They're keeping their word for sure. And what helps to achieve this? Of course, the suspension system. The suspension system realizes that the sensors transmit to each other the signal of what kind of cover it is and tries to make you drive comfortably in this car on any kind of surface. There's more. X-Drive was also created for safety, so that if on an uneven road, one tire will hit wet and another the dry asphalt, these sensors distribute the torque, so it can be lowered on one tire and shifted to another to have an ideal grip on the surface, to travel safely and not slip or break somewhere. Of course, BMW used the X-Drive system badly for good acceleration and for cars like F90 M5, with which you can oppress anyone. In competition and CS, there are differences in the suspension systems as well. Well, CS is lighter, and that's why it has the better small result. And also, there are different seats in CS. The suspension system is also different, stiffer, more focused on the track. For those who want to rev only on track and want to have the top version for it, you can buy competition or CS. Also, you'll have a bit more horsepower by 25 on competition and 35 on CS. Maybe it doesn't sound like a solid number and you may think, fuck it, why should I add 35 horsepower? But you are wrong. It is much lighter and this weight is good for acceleration. But usually, the M5 is bought by people who want to drive in the city every day and maniacs of drag racing. A relatively soft suspension system is good for drag racing and acceleration. So that's why people are buying these cars. What is also different and what I like is the steering wheel. Generally, I like the wheels of BMW. I couldn't say those are the bad ones. I also like very much how I sit while driving. It's like I get used to cars easily. I like the electronic dashboard very much. There are the different ones already in the restyling ones which are fully digital. I want to put my words here as well. The display is small. You can use buttons on the climate display as well as use the touchpad, but you can find it difficult to press the right button. That's because it is too small and on a slightly uneven road you can hit something else because everything is too close. The sound system looks very good. It also has lights. Bowers and Wilkins, wow. It's really cool. You can set the volume up and a bit chill. The road is almost over. Floor it finally. This car has good acceleration, they say. Let's see. First speed. Are you ready? Let's go. It has such a good acceleration that you first accelerate and then realize that you are accelerated. It means that your brain can't realize that you are moving too fast. Very good acceleration, especially since the best thing about this car is that it's all-wheel. You are not afraid that at the speed of 150 kilometers you will face an uneven road or some bug and the car will slip and you will be in some kind of accident. You drive this car very confidently and you are not afraid. They made it too fast and too safe, which is also negative about it. You can die while driving fast without realizing what you were doing. Everyone thinks their cars are too fast until they meet the F90 M5. That's it, man. Those are the golden words. To sum up, I drove this car in every possible way to come up with some conclusion. Also, Gio, you came up with something as well, right? You realize whether you buy it or not, what it is compared to the older M5, etc. I must mention the look of this car. For me, it's one of the biggest disadvantages. It looks good, but I'll tell you what bothers me most. Well, generally when you are looking at it, it's not different from the ordinary 5th series of G30. Let's say For example, when you are driving in the town, no one will pay any special attention to it. For example, if you are driving with an E60 M5 at night, it's like a shark swimming in the sea. Everyone is moving away because they are afraid. This car is not scary at all for me. Don't you think that it's 2 and 3 bolts? They are just in different colors. Huge brake discs. By the way, when we were on the track, the brakes were very good. But I don't know, I was not afraid to sit in this car. I was not afraid to accelerate, stop, etc. That's what I'm saying. It became too safe and too quiet. You can easily say that nothing will happen to you in this car, something you could not say about the E60 M5. When you are driving an E60 M5, you know that you may find yourself in heaven or hell, depending on who you are. The nose of the car is of course aggressive. BMW always has aggressive noses. Everything is an ideal size. The grille is ideal. Headlights are very sophisticated, beautiful and elegant. But on the whole, the car still looks aggressive. It's an aggressive car. As for colors, it will be the color you like and buy. For some reason, when it comes to sedans like this, I prefer black. However, a lot of people are tired of black and it's difficult to take care of black cars and they prefer not to choose it. I also like a small lip of carbon, which fits very well. I also like this bumper of M. I would add some different hood. It's a big factorial disadvantage that the hood is no different from other 5th series. I would like a more aggressive look on this car. Well, it can set up an aftermarket, but I want it to be another hood. You can realize only by it that it's M5, but those sons of a bitch Taiwanese really fuck up decent cars, and you no longer can find a difference. Today when we were driving in the city, no one paid attention except for the SUV of M, which realized that we were driving M. Others paid no fucking attention. That's what I don't like. China and Taiwan fucked up every car. As for the Mustang, you can't say it's an EcoBoost or an 8-cylinder. Same goes with the Camaro. In BMWs, you can't easily understand anything, especially when everyone is driving with popcorn sound. That's again the disadvantage of the car. The only way to prove to someone that you are different is a sound. But in this case, the sound is not good enough to prove anything. As I said, it's popcorn and barble sound. This barble sound is like the car is belching, and this additional noise is a disadvantage for me, because the emotion is lost. Like when you're driving Mercedes, your 8-cylinder is forming the sound that everyone can tell that it's a real AMG. With M, it's a little bit harder. If you don't fuck and outrun someone, he won't realize and may think that it's some kind of cheap car. Well, who is a real car enthusiast will understand. After all, you will look at brake discs or front wings or carbon roof and will look closer. And you will realize. Even I am mistaken sometimes. Even while recording this video, I was already mistaken because I can no longer choose what is what. Let's take it to the end of it. This car came out in 2017, i.e. the M5 was put in our face in 2017 and from then we lost control over ourselves. As I already mentioned, you can drive well with this car. It is drifting well. Can slip, and I thought since it's X-Drive, the front tires couldn't turn well, but I was wrong. It's really drifting well, and if someone is telling you the M5 is not good for drifting, he's just a shitty driver and can't drive himself. It drifts. The differential works perfectly, and I'm not even mentioning acceleration in drift and on the straight road. You may see foreign videos and may know it better than me. Today we were not driving like pensioners. We hit the gas, revved. You must do something with it, right? The consumption is on average 17 liters. If you drive slowly like a pedant in the city, you probably burn less, which is an ideal consumption for me. I thought it would be 20 plus. Even with 20, it would be acceptable for me when you have 600 horsepower. That's ideal. There is still a hype around this car and it's not going to be cheaper. 60, 65, 80, 100,000. You may be lucky and buy it at any price. Well, that means that it's not cheap and it won't get cheap for a while. The demand for this car is very high, and I will tell you why. Now, let's move on to the final stage about what I think about this car, and then you realize why there is a demand for it. It doesn't need much thought or philosophy. You just compare it to other cars and realize that this is the coolest sedan that anyone has ever released. If you like sedans and want to have a fast car, the M5 F90 is the first thing I would start looking for, if I can afford it. That's it. That's my conclusion. You may like stuff about it or don't like, but if you want a fast sedan, you go and buy an M5 and you can outrun any sedan. I mean factory made, of course. If the other one is tuned, you can do the same as well and still have the fastest sedan. No explanations are needed for potential buyers or non-potential buyers. And no need for jokes or anything. Now, the main thing is to wait for this car to get a bit old and we will see what disadvantages are there. I would like to thank the owner of this car, who stands with us and our project. He asked us to film this video several times, but we had already filmed one. Of course, we will not stop on this, and we'll record rough test drives of other cars that he will provide as well. Unfortunately, the only thing that I can do now is to say goodbye. Unfortunately, every joy comes to the end. But I will continue looking for the cars at Caucasus Auto Market to offer you the next rough test drive.